Big injury crisis at Celtic, potentially, as we're going to dive straight into it as the title fight rundown intensifies, with Celtic being dealt a major injury blow to their title hopes. Going back to folk football, guys. Uneventful past couple of weeks, hasn't it? Only joking, it's not. It's been explosive. There's been drama left, right, and centre. But Celtic winger Dyson Maeda is out of Celtic's home game with St Mirren on Saturday with a hamstring injury, and he could be missing more games in the season running. The forward, who tends to play wide left, he opened the scoring, of course, during Sunday's free each draw with Rangers. We've also got news about Liam Scales being out. St Mirren haven't really turned up against Celtic this season. Celtic definitely seem to perform better away than at home. I don't know what it is. It's almost at home they're just very stagnant, and they seem to do like double the amount of passing, which I guess is to be expected. But it just becomes very side to side for Celtic. They're not that they're afraid to go forward, but it's almost like, right, we'll pass to someone who actually decides they're going to do something with the ball. But how big of an impact that these two could have on on Celtic's season, sorry, it could be absolutely massive. Of course, it could be. Scales has been one of Celtic's best defenders. Maeda, I mean, the guy doesn't really bring you goals, but what he does bring you is, the pressing game, and he's crucial. Like that goal that he scored on Sunday there against Rangers, that's one of those goals that only a Dyson Maeda sort of player can score. That press, that tracking down. It's disgraceful for Tavernier to even allow it to happen, but he did allow it to happen. But what are we going to talk about this? Well, let's see what Brendan Rodgers said about the incident. This is what the Celtic boss had to say. He said, Dyson will miss the weekend and we will just need to see. He has an injury high up in his hamstring and his tendon, and we will have to see what that looks like in the coming weeks. He is certainly not available for the weekend. It is one that the medical team will look at and see where that goes. Then we will understand what inclusion he will have between now and the end of the season. So if you look at it, it's not particularly great for Dyson Maeda. I mean, it hasn't completely and utterly ruled him out of appearing in the run-in, but what you would say is it doesn't look particularly good for the big man for him to make an appearance, does it? He's not going to make an appearance against St Mirren, and hamstrings are dodgy ones. It can rule you out for a long time, and you bring him in too early, and it can go. As we've seen with Dujon Sterling recently, Rangers played him with his hamstring, and he actually returned incredibly, incredibly early with that. Glad to see it though, because Rangers sure as hell need it. Dujon Sterling. You look at Celtic though, their options up front: Kuhn, Palma, Forrest. The winger department is where it is a bit weak for Celtic at the minute. Absolutely. Can't dispute it. But the defensive part of the team is also another area of the team that is a bit weak. And that's exactly where Liam Scales is injured. And this is what Brendan Rodgers said about him. He said he picked up an injury, Liam Scales, slight strain in his abductor. So the likelihood is that he won't be involved. So that's not good for Liam Scales. I think he had a first really good half of the season, and then I do think it's fell off a little bit since then. Now, in terms of good news for Celtic, winger Luis Palma is available again following a calf problem, while captain and midfielder Callum McGregor returned from an Achilles injury at Ibrox. I mean, I think McGregor will be obviously a bit more fit for this game. It is 6 days later, but he had a pretty big hand in both those goals at Ibrox. And yeah, it's just one of those substitutions that Rodgers didn't need to make. Celtic were controlling the game. They sub on Callum McGregor, a guy who's, yes, Celtic captain, but he's not a goal threat. Doesn't make much sense to bring him on, and especially with the lack of fitness, man. He says we're still clearly managing him. He said he did absolutely incredible to be available for the game. The timeline was beyond Rangers, but he worked so hard. He wanted to put himself out there, and he cost us 2 goals. The little bastard. I didn't actually say that. He only trained a few days coming into the game, so this week has been another good week for him. We just have to manage it. He's not out the woods at all, but seeing him in training earlier, he looked really good. But it's also recognising that he has been out quite a long time, and no matter who you are, if you've missed 5 odd weeks of training, you're obviously not going to be at your best level of football fitness wise. And that's absolutely, man. It's very hard for you to be injured and then come straight back into a team and click, and especially when you've actually, you've come back earlier than expected. And you could see in Cal McGregor, man, he was nowhere near fit enough. And coming into the Old Firm at Ibrox, where Rangers are pushing for goals, it's not a good situation to be thrown into. But again, he is the captain. I guess if anybody out there for Celtic, they would like to get thrown into the Lions' den like that, it probably would be him. But at the same time, it did cost him 2 goals, in my opinion. But anyway, guys, Liam Scales, Maeda drop out, Luis Palma back in. What do we think of that? We'll have to wait and see. A lot of chaos waiting to happen. But until next time, peace.